Yahoo Fantasy Baseball Tucson Toros League. This is your Week 19 quick take. Let's get right to it. Twice as nice, the dominant league leader, comes off of a terrible loss and follows it up with a decisive victory, 9-0-1 over Otis and the Drunks. Twice as nice now clinches a playoff spot with the victory. Otis ends a 3-week winning streak with the loss. The lone split was the runs category. The rest of the categories were not even close, with Twice as Nice being very decisive in winning this matchup. Twice had 6 players hit homers. Just one player, though, had more than 3 RBIs. That was Buster Posey with 6 RBIs. Jacoby Ellsbury had 5 stolen bases this week and went straight back to the DL. Otis's offense, only 2 players managed to hit over 300, 4 players hit under 200, and 1 player managed more than 2 RBIs on the roster. On the pitching side, 4 pitchers had a 0 ERA for Otis, but Freddie Garcia threw in no Ks, no wins, and a 23.14 ERA to cancel out the success. For Twice as Nice, 4 pitchers had an ERA over 6, but 8 pitchers had an ERA under 2, including R.A. Dickey, who had a win, 7 Ks, and a 0 ERA in a one-hitter performance against the Phillies this week. In other action, Jimmy Dugan with a key victory, over Grassy Knoll, 6-4. For Dugan, a 3-week winning streak now sweeps Knoll this season, 2-0 in their 2 matchups this year. For Knoll, that team has now lost 2 of the last 3. Dugan took 3 out of 5 on the offensive side and in pitching. Pitching categories were pretty tight, though, in 4 of the 5 slots. On the offense, though, Jimmy Dugan had Miguel Montero for 4 home runs, 6 RBIs, and a 3.04 average for the week. Jimmy Dugan also had 5 players pick up stolen bases, including Jimmy Rollins, who had 3 stolen bases. Good to see him running around the base paths again. Unfortunately, not doing too well in other stat categories. For Grassy Knoll, 6 players managed homers this week. That was led by Carlos Quinton's 2 homers and 7 RBIs. The lone stolen base for this squad, though, Ryan Kalish from the Red Sox. This team has really struggled to pick up stolen bases in recent weeks. On the pitching side, 3 pitchers had a 0 ERA for Grassy Knoll, including Brian Wilson, who had a 0 ERA to go with his 1 win, 1 save, and 6 Ks. Unfortunately, though, Vicente Padilla did not do his part. He did pick up a win, but he also had an 11.57 ERA for the week. For Dugan's pitching staff, 4 pitchers with a 0 ERA. John Lester was one of those. He had 2 starts this week, 2 victories, and 11 Ks with a 0 ERA. Also an impressive 0 ERA out of Brian Fuentes, 2 saves and a win to go with that 0 ERA out of the normally shaky Angel closer. In other action, Laveland and Sheffield gets off the schneid, finally picks up a victory against one of the top teams in the league, Greek Thunder, winning this one 6-3-1. Waveland ends a 7-week winless streak with the victory, while Greek Thunder ends a 5-week winning streak with the loss. Waveland took 3 out of 5 on the offensive side. Pitching went 3-1-1 to Waveland. Wins and saves was tight. All other battles, though, not really close at all. Waveland on the offensive side, 3 players with 2 homers each, including Bobby Abreu's 2 homers, 5 RBIs, and 5.24 average. Greek Thunder countered with Ryan Ludwig's great week. He's now with the Padres, picked up 3 homers, 6 RBIs, a 3.91 average. The team hit 338 this week, very impressive. Unfortunately, though, Greek is suffering from some serious injury concerns, missing a catcher in Giovanni Soto and missing 3 star athletes in Nelson Cruz, Carlos Pena, and Chase Utley. On the pitching side, Greek Thunder normally has a pretty good pitching staff, especially out of the bullpen. This week, though, Mariano Rivera picked up a save, but tossed a 6.75 ERA and a 3.75 whip over the plate. The lone win for this squad was Neftali Feliz. Waveland and Sheffield had Felix Hernandez, who had a huge week, a victory, and 20 Ks with a 0 ERA. This was the only pitcher to pick up a win for Waveland and Sheffield. Also, 5 pitchers on the Waveland staff had a 0 ERA. In other action, a major upset as Woodall has knocked off AZ Padres 5-4-1. Woodall is now on its first winning streak of the season at 2 weeks, while AZ Padres ends a 7-week winning streak with the loss. Padres took the offensive side 3-1-1, but Woodall has bounced back to take pitching 4-1. AZ Padres dominated the offensive side, though. Lost the average category due to a lack of lineup changes for Woodillas, which actually benefited getting a higher average, and the team split the homer category 5-5. Only 3 players managed homers for AZ Padres. 5 players hit under 200, so very disappointing numbers, really. But Juan Pierre helped to save face on the offensive side, had 3 stolen bases and a 320 average. Paul Konerko for AZ Padres, 2 homers, 7 runs, and a 304 average. Woodillas is using just 7 players on the offensive side, and it's going to get a lot worse with the loss of Chipper Jones. Josh Hamilton doing his part on a really bad team, though. 2 homers, 8 runs, and a 500 average for Woodillas. Woodillas dominated pitching, though, this week. 4 winning pitchers, 4 pitchers with a 0 ERA. Had Kevin Slowey this week, who had a no-hitter through 7 innings this week and was pulled by his manager due to injury concerns. AZ Padres tried to counter that with Heath Bell's 4 saves and a 0 ERA, and 4 total pitchers with a 0 ERA. But Josh Johnson struggled this week, had an ERA over 14, and J.J. Putz really struggled this week after possibly being in the running for a closer's job. He posted a 15 ERA this week. Also in action, Tucson's Prettiest knocked off the Metropolitans 8-2. Tucson's Prettiest is now over 500, while Metropolitans falls under 500. Mets has now lost 4 straight weeks. For TP, 4 out of 5 on offense and in pitching. 7 of the 9 players used for TP's offense had homers. Michael Brantley had 2 homers, 6 RBIs, 7 runs, 2 stolen bases, and a 375 average. While Metropolitans struggled on the offensive side, A-Rod had 4 homers and 9 RBIs for Mets. But 5 of the 8 players used hit under 200, including Lance Berkman, Brian McCann, and Andrew McCutcheon. On the pitching side, Steven Strasburg had 11 Ks and no wins for Metropolitans, and a 6.75 ERA as well. Urban Santana, though, tried to balance that out with 2 wins and 7 Ks. Tucson's Prettiest countered with David Ardesma's 3 saves and a 0 ERA, and Daisuke Matsuzaka putting up 15 Ks this week. Unfortunately, though, did not get a win. Also in action, Lucky with a rather decisive upset over Hunt 1981, 8-2. Lucky's now won 3 of the last 4 weeks, while Hunt is 3-16-1 in the last 2 weeks of play against 2 of the worst teams in the league, I should add. Lucky swept the offensive side 5-0 and took pitching 3-2 in an all-out shellacking of Hunt. Lucky, 354 team average. 5 players hit over 300 this week. The lowest average on the roster was a 231 average. Lucky had J.D. Drew with 4 homers, 6 RBIs, a 333 average. And Dan Ugla with 2 homers, 6 runs, 7 RBIs, and a 391 average. Hunt used just 7 players on the offensive side. Also for Hunt, Ryan Dempster was the bright spot, 2 wins, 9 Ks. And Randy Wells with 2 Ks and a 10.8 ERA, and Tim Lincecum's 10 Ks and a 12.91 ERA canceled out anything Dempster accomplished. Lucky's lone win on the pitching side was CC Sabathia, as usual, and A.J. Burnett chipped in 10 Ks and wasn't quite as disastrous as he usually is. Koufax's revenge knocked off the Androids 9-0-1. Koufax followed up the worst loss of the season with the team's biggest victory of the season. For Androids, has failed to win a single category 3 separate matchups since this team last won a matchup. The lone split here was a 0-0 tie in saves. Koufax had Derek Lee for 4 homers and a 455 average. Also had Johnny Peralta's 2 homers and a 118 average. Androids had a team average of 190 this week. Highest average was 263 from Howie Kendrick. Justin Upton hit 074 this week. On the pitching side, Android's lone win was David Price. Ubaldo Jimenez did not pick up a victory this week, did chip in 18 Ks. Javier Vasquez and Peter Moylan had terrible weeks, though, to drown Android's chances on the pitching side. Koufax, 4 pitchers with a 0 ERA, 2 pitchers with double-digit Ks. That was Edwin Jackson and Anibal Sanchez. Derek Lowe equals Cheater knocked off Bronx Bombers in the Battle of the Have-Nots 6-4. Bombers has now lost 11 straight. Cheater, 3 out of 5 on the offensive side and on the pitching side. Great performances from Ryan Zimmerman and Adam Lind. Bronx Bombers had Kevin Gregg with 2 saves and a win. J.A. Happ with a win and 11 Ks. But Cheater countered with Jair Jurgens, 1 win, 10 Ks, and 1.26 ERA. Next week, we're going to see Greek Thunder take on Jimmy Dugan. Those 2 teams, 3rd and 5th, separated by 2.5 games in the standings with just 3 weeks remaining in the season. 4th place AZ Padres is going to take on 6th place Otis and the Drunks. Those two separated by 9 games, but both teams need a win to lock themselves into playoff contention. League leader Twice as Nice is going to take on 8th place Tucson's Prettiest. When these two teams faced off the last time, it was a split, so we'll see if TP can have some success against a dominant juggernaut. 7th place Hunt 1981 is just 2.5 games out of 6th, is going to take on Waveland and Sheffield, who is 6 games out of 6th place. 2nd place, the Grassy Knoll is going to take on 14th place Androids, who is now 7 games out of 12th after previously being in 12th. 10th is Koufax's Revenge, going to take on 11th Metropolitans. These two teams separated by just 4.5 games. Woodala's is 15th, going to take on 12th place Derek Low equals Cheater. And 16th place Bronx Bombers is going to take on sibling rival 13th place Lucky, who is just 5.5 games out of 12th place. So we'll hope to see you back for week 20 in your Tucson Toros Quick Take recap video.